first thing, where's the spiral tool? Well, we can find it here with the shapes. Now I've got here the spiral tool, but I've also placed it here. You can reposition it using the view menu and customizing your tools panel. So once you've got that, just go up here and select the spiral tool and just create a spiral. Very basic spiral, and you can set it to any size of stroke, color, etc. And by default, it's linear. There's also a number of other options along here, along this control bar. One thing I like to do, I always like to change the pressure for this spiral so I get a nice sort of thin here and thin here. So how to do that? Well, you can go over here and you can of course vary the size here, the width, but there's also this really useful pressure. Pressure's great because you can tweak it all kinds of ways. So click here. I wish it was even more flexible. It would be nice if you could drag it out and extend it, but unfortunately you can't. But what you can do is you can click here and you can see they all drag down, which of course means there's nothing to be shown at all. But what you can do, you can also click in the middle, and as you do that, it basically goes back to what it was, but thinning as it goes around. So you've got here, obviously it's much closer to the original there, and thinner here, and also thinner in the centre. And I'm going to use that all the way through this video. So now it's just now go with this. There's lots of different styles. In fact, there's so many different styles. And all of them, each and every time you create something, you can always go and save it over to this panel, which I think is a really useful panel, the assets. So let's just go over here, and that's in the window menu if you can't find it. So you've got here linear. There's lots of things like here, decaying. So you can select that and you can see you get that result. Semicircle, it's still got exactly the same as before. You've still got this pressure still set. And you can go here and you can say counter semicircle, which I think is probably one of the more interesting ones, very dramatic. And obviously you've still got it thin in there, thin in there. And also you can go for this one, Fibonacci, which is still a very nice one. And also plotted. And you can run through those. So let's just go through initially linear. You've also got an option here. You can just click here and it becomes a square spiral. It's a pity that it's not more options for this. I think it would be great to extend it a bit more than this, but still you can deselect that, bring that back and so on. But also you can modify the number of turns, so you can change that, and you can see as you do that, you get this very intense spiral. Of course, it crunches up here and very thin in the centre there. You can put it like that. So at any point, if you suddenly think, you know what, this design looks great, this is exactly what I want. Now I've created over here the assets. I've got the assets panel here, and you notice I've got spirals. Now there isn't a spirals category or collection. I had to create that. So how do you do that? You can just go over here and here, just click here, create new category, and just rename it to spirals. And then just save everything to that spirals one. It just makes it easy. Spirals 1, spirals 2, etc. If you create lots and lots, you might want to split it over 4 or 5 different categories. So once you've done that, you can then simply go here and let's just drag this up because I've gone so far now. I've got lots and lots of ones. Let's just expand that out so you can see all the ones I've got there. I can go here and add from selection. You can do that at any point. So add from selection. And now you've got it added here and you can see it there. Now, if I want to use them again, all you need to do is simply just drag from here to there. So there, just go like that, drag it onto the document. You can see there, I've got all kinds of different, and they're all created much the same, just using this long top. You can, of course, combine them as well. Perfectly reasonable, just combine the thin line as it joins, flip them around. You've also got options for this, a whole load of different spiral designs like this as well. So let's just run through a few options, and this is the one that I had right at the start, and I'll show you how to create that in a little while. So with this, you can then go through these. So again, you can change the arc angle, just go up here, just tweak this, and you can see as you do that, that creates quite a weird one where it sort of pushes it over to one side. So you can see it becoming very irregular at that point. As you get further and further, it becomes very irregular. Or you can just push it back again to there. You can also tweak this as well. Not so effective. I think just creates minor changes at that centre part there. And also we can do inner radius. So inner radius just pushes it outwards. and you can obviously push it all the way out, and then you just get like a track around there, and you can push it again back to 0. Let's just go to the next one. So decaying. Now the decaying one, you've got most of the same options. You've got a little bit of decay here. So you've got decay, and then you can just change this. So you can see as you do that, push that up again, you get again that sort of track look. You've also got this sort of option here, decay per turn. You can change that. Sometimes we'll get just that, not very much. Zooms off to virtually nothing at that point. But you can see you can also modify this as well. So you can see you've got a lot of options, even with something that doesn't seem to be particularly obvious with decaying. And you can of course modify the number of turns, and obviously in this case hardly any impact whatsoever. But you can see you can just try even just changing that, something that hardly has that much impact sometimes suddenly in this case has quite a bit of impact. And you can see you do that. But there you've got a number 9 inside number 9. Okay, let's just go there, and you can see as I change that, it's sort of straight. And also you've got this option here, which is cap inside with circle. Okay, not particularly much, but again, I guess if you change the settings here, that you'll see you get a leaf-like design, which I think is quite nice. Also, you've got, of course, you make it a square, not very much difference there at all. And you've got the inverse of that as well. Let's go to the semicircular. So semicircular, this is a good one. This one, again, you can do with square. So you can just vary that. And also, again, you've got a number of turns here. You can see as you do that. But again, quite a lot of them end up going the same sort of approach, because of the way it's done, the thinning in the centre, and obviously this thick, and then you've got that round the edge there. You can see it just thinning at the top. And again, you can push it back and set it like that. It's a pity there's no instant, I would think that it would be nice, a reset. Maybe there is a feature for that. I do not know how to quickly do that. Maybe use this option. This is always a good one. You can simply got a reset here. So got create presets. You could just use one of their ones to put it back. And that's always a good thing. If you actually create something that's your core one, then you can always put it back quickly to that core one. So it's useful just maybe to have that core one there. So you just click it and then you can go back to it straight away. Because sometimes you can get quite a complex design that's really quite, you have to go and set all these different settings here. So with this, you can see again, you can create a variety of different designs. And let's just go on now to one that I think is the best one for me is counter semicircular. Though I think plotted is pretty useful as well. So counter semicircle. And in this case, you can see it's really intense. And you can always go over here and change the width. You don't have to keep it like that. You might decide, you know what, for that one, let's just put it down to 4.5. Doesn't need to be still kept at the 8 or 9 or whatever, because sometimes it just crunches up too much. And you can also, you don't like the colour, you can always click here and you can see what happens. You can get obviously a gradient, or you go for a solid colour. And you can click here. And also, another thing you can do, you've always got options for bringing pattern designs into this as well. So if you want to do that, I think that's pretty useful as well. To modify this gradient here, all you need to do is just go to the gradient tool and then make certain you go with stroke. And with that, you can then modify it, make certain it's selected. If it's not selected, nothing's going to happen. So select it, and then you can tweak it. So you can move it around. So it doesn't have to remain exactly as it starts. So you can just increase that. All it needs is using this gradient tool and making certain you're using stroke and making certain it's actually selected. But also, you can go here, and you can see here you've got bitmap. So you can change the type away from just being a gradient. You can use a bitmap, and that means you can bring an image in. And you can use images of anything. So you can use images of textures, circles, all kinds of different dot designs. Anything and everything can be used as a bitmap. And of course, you can save a design in Affinity Photo and save it as a bitmap and then use it that way and bring it back in again here. You can also change it back to a solid colour simply by going up here and making certain you select stroke again. And instead of using radial, you just go up here to solid, and now you've got a solid colour again. So that's a quick way of restoring that. Well, what you can then do is you can continue to modify this. So again, you can select this, let's say this time reduce it down even more so you can actually see it. Sometimes it just seems to end up being so crunched up that it really makes it hard to see anything. And again, you can still continue to modify the number of turns, go that way as well. And also click here, and you can see as you do that, it will change around the edge. It just goes along, and you can just see it dragging outwards like that. That's counter semicircular. Well, also what you got is Fibonacci. I can barely say that one. I must admit, Fibonacci is one of those ones I got quite often confused myself when saying, but I think it's quite a nice design as well. And again, at any point, as mentioned, you can still save it, and it will save this colour. So if you've got red there, you've got this design in red, you can then go over here to the assets and right click there, add from selection, just so it's stored away over here. Now you see, I've actually got a fill now. I've added a fill in there by accident. If you've got there in the fill and you've got a colour you don't want, you can always then just click here to make certain it goes back to just nothing, not a solid colour, because I can just see down here in assets I've got it as white. Didn't want that, but still it's there. Again, you can go back here to plotted. And now plotted, a really odd one. And I'm just going to move the assets away a little bit. Here, you've got this option here. You can just invert again. You can see it just slight change there. But number of turns. So let's just reduce that down. You see there, and you go there. I think that creates a very nice, unusual design with this. So I would like some other options for this. I must admit, there's quite often I would say it'd be nice if you could actually points halfway as well. It'd be nice to be able to, of course, you can always add the points, but it would be nice if it enabled you to be able to put halves inside it or thirds, etc. So you could manipulate it even further. Doesn't do that, unfortunately. Also, you've got here divisions. So with this divisions, you can change that. And then when you go down to say 9.85, say, you get something like that. Very unusual, but really nice design, I think. There's certain points that are just perfect. If you go down another one, I think sometimes it just starts breaking up. You can get something like that, which is fine, but it doesn't look as good, I think, as something that's really fairly regular. And sometimes you just can't hit it. You get something like that, 9.15, exactly right. And then other times you put it different value, it just doesn't look. Looks more like a falls apart. And then, of course, when you push it too far down, 3, you get triangular design, which I think is quite nice. A triangular spiral. There's no option for triangular spiral, so this triangle is really useful. And again, one of those ones I think, you know what, I'm going to save it to my assets. So go over here. Long as it's selected, that's the key thing. If it's not selected, it won't happen. So add from selection. So now you can see my design there. And this time, of course, I haven't accidentally added it with the fill as well. And this one, you can still do exactly the same as I've done up here, where I've got 2. You can simply hold down the Alt Option key and drag. So if you want to, you can always create another design there. And you can see now I've got, so actually I'm looking at it, it's very hard to see where, oh, there it is, just down there. So you want to join that. So you can just rotate it, just put it like that. And you can see as you do this, you can make variations on how to join the two. You can also modify the inner radius. So you can go up here, just change that, tweak that. And as you do that, you can see it crunches again outwards, becoming more like I think a lovely little design. So it's sort of twisting in, like it gives a very 3-dimensional effect when you do that. Also with the addition of obviously of that thinning of the line as well. And then also you can modify this as well, the bias. So you just tweak that. And as you do that, you can see that will go further inwards. And if you go the other way, strange enough, it goes outwards. You can create a variety of different designs simply by moving this bias setting. You can push it all the way there. And of course, you can still continue to tweak these other settings here. And unfortunately, 20. Now, if you go up here and you think, oh, you know what, I can put 40 in there. It does. That's really useful, isn't it? I'm not certain why they create them so the sliders only go up to 20 sometimes when it can also do up to 40. Let's just try the next one, 60. So you can create a variety. It works with 60 as well to create even more. I think that's quite a beautiful design, that one. You can create all kinds of unique designs. And again, of course, because it's so intense, you might want to work on this as well. So you can just change this. And as you change it, varies that. Of course, you could combine it, maybe fill the colours. There's a lot of gaps there that you could obviously just fill with different colours to create all kinds of unique designs as well there. And also you still can do these. So I'm just going to go up here, the bias, change that and create that, crunch that up. And also inner radius, push that in, and all these other settings. You can see literally thousands of different combinations. So this one, again, because I think, you know what, that's pretty nice, I'm just going to go over here to Assets and Add from Selection. When I do these tutorials, I really like adding them to my assets because they're useful for future projects and just great for ideas. And the thing also is that when you're actually selecting it, the great thing you notice is that it actually keeps all the settings here. So as soon as you go off, obviously it hasn't got it selected there, you go back to it, exactly the same here. With the assets, once you drag it in, it's got all the settings are stored. It's not just a path. It's got all the settings. It's still a spiral. I haven't gone over there, and let's go right over there. See if I do that. Click here, convert to curves. Then it loses the information about the spiral. So it needs to remain as a spiral, and it's stored as a spiral here. That's something that's very useful. So you can just literally millions of different designs simply by just tweaking it here. And also, let's just go for 100. And you can see it does seem to go up to 200 and so on. So lots of great designs. And I guess that it's probably possible to do with all of the other spiral types as well to create some really quite unique. And actually that starts to look quite three-dimensional. I think that's a very unusual look of a spiral design. How to create a spiral design like this though? It's obviously a lot more colourful than the other ones I've been doing in this video. Well, let's just go right back to the start, and I'm going to select the spiral tool and drag. Now again, make certain you've got the pressure set correctly. So click here. I'm going with 5 points in this, and click here to the pressure. Make certain you've got the pressure like this. And you can simply drag this down and drag the middle up. So with this, you can now modify from style to counter semicircular. So I'm going to go with that. And you can, I probably could go for a few more there. So turns, I can increase that a bit. I don't want it crunched up totally, so I want a bit of gap between that. Now I can modify this as well. I'll just go here, just click here, and instead of this basic style, solid line style, you can go for a dash line style. So select that, and now you've got these dashes. Well, I can always tweak around. Sometimes I get exactly the right settings. I mean, obviously, I could go and look over in the assets and find the exact settings, but you can just vary it. And of course, you can vary it in all kinds of ways. One of the great things about this, you can tweak it, modify it, and just by changing a few factors, suddenly you might find it's not exactly right. But you can see as you do that, you get different. I quite like that design, but you can see you can increase that, maybe increase a bit more, 2.4, 2.6. I think that's about right. Once you've got that, you can also now, I'm going to go to the move tool. I can obviously reposition it. I can do all loads of things. I can apply other things to it as well. I can apply filters to it. But if I apply a filter to it, it will become just a single pixel layer, which is fine, but that's not what I want in this case. What I also want to do is I want to put this into another object. So go over to layers. You can see here I've just got this spiral at this point. Well, what I can do, I can go over here and circle. Now, of course, as always, it takes exactly the same setting. I don't want that. I want that to be a solid, so I can click here again and I can just set it to that. Also, at any point I can click here and I can simply reset it. And also, I don't want the colour. So click here and I want colours. I want black instead. So this design I'm going to put inside this. So I'm just going to go up here, edit and cut. Obviously you can use shortcuts. And then with that, I'll make it slightly bigger. I'm going to edit and then paste inside. That's the key thing. So paste inside and then I can reposition it. Long as that's selected, I can reposition it inside that circle. And I'm going to go with that. And now what I could do, I could go down here to effects, click here, and I could say 3D, and I can increase it. But what happens, this modifies this. Don't want that. What I want to do is modify the thing inside. So I'm just going to go here, make certain you select the spiral. So spiral selected, then you can click effects, and then you go to 3D, and then increase that. Now you push it too far, I'm going to go for about 8.6, but it will vary depending on what you want. And also, I'm going to go with outer shadow. So I can change radius, offset, and intensity, and you get a design like that. well, I could probably tweak it a bit more. Let's just see, it's still live. So the spiral still can be changed. Now, if you push it too far, you can see what happens, which I think is quite a nice, interesting design as well. But I think it's nicer just around about 7. But also I can continue to click here and modify this. So I can change it. So I can push this further and further. You can see I get bigger and bigger, these designs here. Obviously the gap remains the same, but I can decrease that or increase it. But also, once I'm happy with my design, I think that's quite nice. As always, I think it's nice to save it into the assets. So make certain it's selected, then go to assets, and then go here and down to add from selection. So it's stored away for future use. You can see it there. Well, what you can then do is you can turn around and rasterize it, or simply apply the filter. So let's just go here to filter. Ellipse is selected. So filters and distort, and then spherical. But another option, if you prefer, because you don't want it to be, unfortunately, can turn into a pixel, you can always go here to layer, new live filter layer, and distort and spherical. So you can always use that. That's another option. So you can increase it there. But the problem with this is, well, you can add multiple sphericals. It's perfectly reasonable. Multiple layers. Be just as good. Get something like that. And close it. As mentioned, I can use multiple. So instead of just having one, I can always just go again to layer and down to new live filter layer, or I can just duplicate, of course, distort and spherical, and then modify that. And you can see then it pushes it even further, because I always find that the 100% is really not particularly enough for me. I prefer to push it to 300 or 400. The only way to do that, unfortunately, in this one, if you enter 300, let's push, it just puts it back to 100. Many of the filters in Affinity Photo don't do that. They will let you go beyond the limit of the slider. So I've got that, and now that's it. So you can see I've got 2 spheres there, and of course at any point I can always simply remove, make them not visible if I don't want that. Actually, I've just removed the wrong one. I want that one back. That one. I've got the sphere above. Didn't want that. Let's just undo that. Put it all back again. What I wanted was the sphere in there. So just drag it down. You can put it in there. I prefer it within the actual ellipse itself. So everything's inside that circle. And there it is. Very quick design. Now, if at any point you want to turn this into a pixel layer, all you need to do is just, with that selected, ellipse, go to layer, and then down to rasterize. And there it is, rasterize. But you could do a similar sort of thing with filters and distort and spherical as well. And apply it a couple of times if you want to achieve a slightly more circular design like that. Hope you found this of interest. Any questions, please let me know in the comments below. A like or dislike, always appreciated. Also, any comments about this, any things you would like to see with the spiral tool, please let me know in the comments. Bye.